I kinda like that. I kind of like that. Hopefully y'all can hear me. Where's the chat? It should be bigger. Hold on. Can I see y'all in the chat? Is it working? Yo, the chat's working on the screen. All right. I can't really see it though. Hold on. Let me see if I can make this screen bigger. So at least all y'all can see the chat. Hey, I can see it coming through. All right, so what I need to do is pull it up on my end. Hold on. Let me make sure. Okay, so now I got it on the screen. I got it on the side. Yo, this is the direction that we're going in. This is the direction that we're going in. Let me see if I can make this a little. Can you guys still see it if I make it just a little smaller? Just a little smaller. Hopefully that's not getting in the way of anything. I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to scroll all the way back up to see the chats that already came through. We're still learning this thing. But grand rising first and foremost to all. I hope everybody had an amazing day. Actually, I think they are coming through. From the beginning. So as I see the chats coming through, I will acknowledge as many as I can. How's everybody doing? So today I want to recap some stuff that we talked about yesterday, especially regarding Social Security. Shout out to Andy. Andy knows that thing had me. That thing had me a little bit puzzled yesterday. Just from a. You know what I want to do? I want to have the conversation with y'all. Spend maybe the first 15 minutes or so just talking about Social Security and my thoughts on it. And it may come up in a later conversation that we're going to look at. This professor was talking about how a lot of people fear what I call certain aspects of freedom. So when a lot of people, and the reason why a lot of people fear freedom is because it can be a scary place. It can be a vulnerable place. So, yeah, I know you were. And it's crazy because I feel like I was having these conversations last year, or remember when it was a big thing? It was a big thing when Elon Musk was putting it out there. And I don't know. I had like a brain lapse when it came to it, but But, and this is the conversation that I was having with Chachi. Well, let me first acknowledge folk, and then we'll get into the combo. So shout out to Big Bro Steve. I'm not seeing all the texts, I know, because he said, hey, Mont, and I don't see Mont's text. So what's up, Book? Grand rising to all. If I missed the first comments, especially Finn, if I missed the word of the day, give me the word of the day. You can send it over again. And I'll definitely acknowledge that, because that's something that we need, the energy we need to kick off the show with. So shout out to Big Bro Steve. Shout out to Mont. Shout out to Andy in the building, of course. Shout out to Bubbles in the building, bright and early. Shout out to Uluwehi. Shout out to Krista in the building. Grand rising. Shout out to Finn, as always. I was on X earlier, and I got to see my big bro Finn. And this was in his days in the military, and you and my big bro Steve and Mont with Boogie Boog. That's who I'm referring to. But you guys, between y'all, I got my team, man. I feel safe walking around out here. Between Finn, Steve, and my brother Boog, I feel safe walking around out here. So. Definitely, it's always appreciated. All right, so big bro Steve and Finn, we got some wise words. Freedom demands personal accountability. That is a fact. And this is the conversation around what Social Security. Freedom demands personal accountability. The reason why a lot of people think Social Security is a good thing is because they believe that people are not responsible enough to plan for their savings in the future. My question is that worth somebody else's freedom or your freedom? Like, is it worth giving up that aspect of freedom to where, nope, you have to pay into this because these people, they can't be responsible enough. And then what does that do? Like a lot of other social programs. Now you become dependent on it. Now you're not going to, is them providing Social Security now going to make you more responsible? Is it going to make you take retirement more seriously? Or do you now feel that you have something to fall back on? So, and I'm not saying one is good, one is bad. I'm not, the where I want to land it is on, that's the cost of freedom. The cost of freedom. Do you want to live in a communist state where everybody gets a certain amount of money, everybody gets this? Or do you want to compete? Do you want it to be, hey, if this person doesn't want to work hard, then they get the lifestyle that they get? Or if this person wants to work exceptionally hard, making money, they get the lifestyle that they get. Now, like everything else in life that I'm learning, as we always finish off the show, there's a certain balance. Now, that balance doesn't always mean 50-50. There's a balance, though. And when I say balance, it could be, okay, we're going to take some things from this side, we're going to take some things from this side, put it all together, do what makes sense, and roll that out. Now, a lot of people may even argue, okay, you shouldn't have the freedom to kill somebody. Yes, there's going to be certain rules that need to be put in place. We have to do what makes sense. That's the part of the balance that I'm talking about. But maybe a common sense thing would be, hey, you have the decision. If you feel that you're not going to be responsible enough in the future, then you can make the decision as an adult to go into Social Security. If you feel that you will be responsible, or if you're at the point where you're like, well, I could just take this same money that I'm already having taken out of my check and I can put it into something else that I can control, that I can monitor, that I can take money from at any point in time, that I probably can accumulate a whole lot of wealth. And when the reason why I say I can track it is because we don't even know what our investment, like think about it. It's an investment where, to my understanding, you don't even like get a breakdown of what your investment is worth. So when you turn a certain age, you just get a certain amount of money. Your investment could be a lot more than what you end up getting just at them. And it's like, why would we trust the government? If it's a system that the government wants to push in order to take money from us, do we really trust that they're doing it in our best interest? Do we really trust that they're not skimming money off the top or putting money towards something else? And like I said, perhaps the perfect balance is if you decide that you want to invest and you decide you don't want to invest, we give y'all the freedom to do both, right? So that's kind of the mindset, but freedom comes with accountability. So it is what it is. All right, so let's keep it moving. Big Bro Finn said, choose strength, choose clarity, choose the energy that builds, not the one that drains. I like that. And that's a constant reminder that we always have to make sure is top of mind. And that's something that Mama Lay actually does a tremendous job of always reminding me of. She's always reminding me of, hey, focus on, what you focus on grows. So make sure that no matter what you're calling out, no matter what you're critiquing, no matter what you're judging, even though, and shout out to Mama Lay, because I just, y'all need to go check this out. I just got through the 7 spiritual laws, of success. And one of the first laws that probably was the biggest standout for me was, remember, and I think I told you about it, is not to judge. Be careful judging. So just obviously we have to be very careful about the things that we're focusing on. We can call out the things that are happening wrong or call out the things that we need to improve, but the focus needs to be on the improvement. I understand that. So let's keep it moving. We got shout out to Joe in the building. Joe Kamachi. Did I say it right? Shout out to Joe, man. Shout out to Joe tapping in from Scranton. Joe Mercacci, man. Joe, welcome. Looking forward to your insight. Looking forward to your perspective. What we do on this show. I was getting ready to say what we try to do. We don't try to do anything. What we apply on this show is just the principle of having as many different perspectives as possible and being able to share it in a respectful environment where nobody's getting yelled at. But obviously, we all come from different backgrounds, have different experiences that largely shape our perspective on the world. So, one person's them thinking that something is right may just because they're limited, maybe just because they have a bias. I have biases that definitely create blind spots for me. So I assume that everybody else does as well. So the more we can have these engaging what a lot of people may call open or vulnerable conversations, because we're not scared that we got to defend our point or stand on certain things or prove certain things, or even bringing up certain things to where it's like, hey, I don't want to say that because that may be a silly question or people may judge me. We're going to respond to it, but yeah, we're a family. We're a family. So welcome to the fam, Joe. Welcome to the fam. Big Bro Finn said, train your mindset like a weapon. What you build in one area will carry into every area. One more time. Train your mindset like a weapon. What you build in one area will carry into every other area, every area. If you can master your effort in the hard moments, you can master your life. You can master your life. That's something else that I just got from this book, the last chapter. And it reminded me of another conversation with Mama Lay and with my dad. I remember he used to always have something in his office where it said, good news, bad news, who knows? And this book was talking about how every challenge, every time we get upset that something doesn't go our way, that's an opportunity to improve in an area that will set you free later on when you're confronted with something else. Every problem that we face, every challenge that we face, it's an opportunity to get better, to improve in a particular area that we otherwise wouldn't even have been focused on. So let's take advantage. Shout out to Blue Line. Shout out to Blue Line. Andy said, what's the quote from Franklin? Giving up freedom for security means you have neither. Something like that. Whew. Giving up freedom for security means you have neither. I'm gonna look into that one. I'm gonna look into that one, and anybody can feel free to just Google that one if there's a quote that Franklin said. I assume Ben Franklin, yeah. If anybody's looking it up. And Samira said, so it's a welfare program basically, because if we have to worry about irresponsible people, then that's no different than welfare. And no, not everyone in welfare is irresponsible. Some work. Well, this is the point that this is one of my biggest disagreements or problems with the Democrat Party. This is the problem that I have. When you have welfare, it doesn't incentivize people to get out of their situations. And a lot of these things like Social Security, a lot of these social programs, they may start off with good intention. They may start off with good intentions, but that doesn't excuse us from constantly monitoring whether or not it's moving us in a positive direction. And what do I mean by that? If we looked at affirmative action and initially looked at it where it's like, okay, hey, we're going to reach out, we're going to widen our net. Like we were looking in this particular area for qualified people, but now we're going to broaden widen our net, and we're going to keep our standards. You know, we're not going to lower our standards, but we're going to broaden things. You know what I'm saying? That's a bit different than what it has turned into from a structural standpoint. And even if that is necessary in 1950 or 1960 or 1970, that does not mean that you still have to implement that when it comes to 2020, 20 and beyond. And if you still do, then that perhaps is the best example of it not working. If you still have to continue doing it, or if you still have to now it's like it's gotten to another level where I know a lot of people, and I have this conversation with Maya from time to time, where in her job, it's not a DEI thing where their standards are lowered. It's still the same standards, but in a lot of these programs, it's not. When you look at the average test scores to get into Harvard and a lot of these Ivy League schools, the average test score for a black kid to get in is significantly lower than an Asian kid. It's lower than a white kid. And what ends up happening, they've done a lot of these studies where they allow these kids to go to Harvard, they go to these Ivy League schools, and then they get there in their first year, they're in academic probation, and they end up getting behind so early, and they end up not being able to perform because they just can't compete with the other kids that are there. It's just how a lot of it happens. You look at other areas. Even I remember certain, we had this conversation before where certain fire departments or where you have to take that civil service test, they were doing away with the civil service test. There was a couple different places that they were doing this, where they were doing away with the civil service test to be a firefighter, or I think it was specifically with firefighting. I don't think it was with police as well, but they were trying to address the fact that there's not as many women firefighters as they would like. So therefore they were trying to lower the standard or get rid of the standard for everybody. You know what I mean? So they got rid of it for everybody, hopefully thinking that I don't think that's the right way to go about it. I don't think that that's the right way to go about it, especially when your performance, the standard of your performance dictates whether or not you can save lives in a lot of these areas. So I get it. I get it in certain aspects, but now maybe people will say, well, certain firefighters can do different jobs to where maybe they won't have to carry certain people. I understand that argument. I understand it, and I'll entertain it but overall, the main point that I'm making is that a lot of these programs, they end up becoming a crutch to a lot of people, and they end up hindering the very people that it's supposed to serve and getting them in this cycle of repetition where now their kids are raising kids in the same welfare apartments that their parents were living in. It's just, not a good situation. Not a good situation. And then we end up maybe seeing what happens in New York City, or what's happening in New York City right now, where Mamdani's trying to bring about all these social programs. And then who does he have to go get the money from? Let's raise the taxes 9 or 10%, property taxes, for the people that were responsible, for the people that bought homes, it's just not, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like certain programs, even when you look at loan forgiveness. I never understood that. You're going to forgive college loans. If you forgive college loans, to me, that's so messed up to the kids that decided to not go and take out these big loans and go to these big schools, that you have the freedom to decide where you want to go. But a lot of times, because you're not financially responsible, because we don't learn these things, because it's just, hey, you got to go to college. You got to go to college. So therefore, we just justify taking out $100,000, $200,000 in loans because everybody said we have to go to college, but everybody didn't say you had to go to that college, to that private university. You go to state college. You can go to community college and maybe earn a scholarship and then go to a 4-year school. Or take 2 years here and then take 2 years at a 4-year school, transfer your credits, and then maybe your costs will be significantly lower. But I always felt bad for the people that make smart decisions and say, hey, no, I'm going to work and go to community college instead of just taking out these loans to go to this big school. But then years later, they get their loans forgiven. And it's like, damn, that's kind of messed up to the kids that decided to go to community college. They could have went to it. So this is kind of where my mind goes with a lot of this stuff. This is where my mind goes with a lot of this stuff. So let me actually scroll. I see Unk in the building. I see Michelle in the building. I see Mama Lay in the building. Samira. Let me see. So Krista wrote, I'm injured and lost my job at a AUS startup company 2 days ago. I know I won't qualify for Social Security, but I'm trusting God will open a door for me. Yeah, and that trust in God may come in human form. This is another thing that I believe. I believe that when you don't force people to help other people, that they're more inclined to do it on their own. When you don't force me to, hey, you have to help this person. I think that we as human beings, like a lot of our mindset and perhaps the culture that we've now become accustomed to, it's one of selfish nature. A lot of the things that we do, even we talked about kicking our kids out the house when they're 18, like everything is about individualism. And I think that's going to happen or be more significant and prevalent when when you're forcing people to help others. You get what I'm saying? It's like when you force somebody to help somebody, then they're probably going to go into it like, yo, I don't like you forcing me to do it. But naturally, I think the good will come out of people in ways when you're not forcing it. But I hope I'm saying it correctly. So I know I'm not saying it correctly, but I hope you can still understand what I'm saying or trying to say. All right, Finn said, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. That's the Benjamin Franklin quote. Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Yeah. So Unc said for your whole life that you're paying taxes, you're paying into Social Security, which is different than welfare, them giving you the money to stay home. It's still a form of welfare to me. To me, it's still a form of welfare, and I'll tell you why it's a form of welfare, because it still requires, they're not giving you your money. I know a lot of people may think they're giving you your money. If they were giving you your money, they wouldn't require younger people to still pay into it in order so they can pay older people. If that wasn't the case, if they came out with Social Security and one, didn't make it mandatory, and two, they didn't need my money to pay my parents' generation, that's a Ponzi scheme. When you need new investors to pay for the current investors, that's the definition of a Ponzi scheme. So that is welfare. And this is why I say, once again, if you want to take that money, put it into something that you can see. Put it into something that you can actually see grow, see, and keep tabs on, rather than just trusting the government. So I do believe that that is a form of welfare. I do. Let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. All right. So let's and let me be very clear. And when it comes to welfare, when it comes to social programs, I'm not opposed people getting help. But when you have these programs and people become dependent on it, see, we look at the balance in the other way, but we don't look at the balance in this way. We don't look at the outcomes. We don't look at how this is crippling somebody. Like if you keep providing somebody with fish, do they have an incentive to learn how to fish on their own? Things are tough. Life is hard. Think about all the great things that you've achieved in your life. You had to do hard things to get there. Life is not supposed to be easy. How boring would that be? You're supposed to be challenged. We're supposed to be going through different things that shape our character, that will prepare us for future situations to overcome those challenges. If life is always easy, it's almost like, do you go to the gym and if you go to the gym and only lift 1 pound, are you going to have any type of development? No, your body develops when you put your body through pain, when you put your body through stress, tension, when you contract your muscles, not when you're just relaxed. That's not how your body develops. So why would our mind be any different? Why would anything else be any different? So, and once again, I'm all cool with whatever balance we decide is best. So let me actually, so this is the direction, just to kind of give y'all where I think the structure of the show will go. We did our recap of Social Security. We're going to get into this video that the Young Turks, shout out to Anna, they put out on the war with Iran. Amount of US looks like we're getting ready to go to war with Iran. We've touched on it a little bit, but I want to actually bring the conversation to a little bit of a different place, where I want Anna to give a recap. We can have a conversation on that. And then I want to get into this Tucker interview. Especially, I'm assuming that Tucker's going to put something out a little bit. I know that he spoke to, I think, Daily Mail or somebody, where he said that he was detained in Israel. So when he went over to either have a meeting or interview our ambassador of Israel, U.S. ambassador of Israel, Mike Huckabee. So I'm looking forward to that. But there was an interesting conversation that he had with a Christian Zionist pastor regarding Islam, regarding Israel, Judaism, that I think is just fitting for this conversation when it comes to whether or not we're going to get into a war with Iran. So let me pull this up very quickly. We're getting better. We're getting better. All right, so let me bring that. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my camera in front of hers, and then I'm going to shrink mine. I like this, man. I really do like this program, man. Shout out to OBS. All right, so let's get into this video. Let's hear what Anna has to say, and then we'll get into the conversation a bit.
On into a new nuclear deal. I just think that...
And let me know how the volume is. Let me know as the video starts. I'm going to I can turn it up. So I can turn it up. Let me know if I need to turn it up even more than I just turned it up. All right. So I think I fixed the volume issue that we were having yesterday.
These negotiations, and I've said this before, they're just trying to buy time to ensure the US is ready, to ensure that, I guess, Israel's ready, because Iran will retaliate by, sending their missiles over to Tel Aviv. So we'll see if they're ready for that. Now, we here in the United States are not concerned about our safety, but I'm definitely concerned about the safety of the men and women in our armed services, because as Senator Lindsey Graham, one of the biggest cheerleaders for this war, said earlier this week, there's risks. Some people could die. I want to do it anyway. And I've been pushing for it for literally years. So I'm sure Lindsey Graham lost it in his pants today when it became abundantly clear that the Trump administration is preparing to go to war with Iran. And unlike the hit it and quit it situation that we experienced last summer, where the Trump White House just did these strikes on the nuclear sites in Iran, it does appear that they're preparing for a sustained war that they claim will last several weeks, but I think it'll likely last longer than that. Now, let me give you the details according to Axios reporter and Israeli insider Barak Ravid. He says that a US military operation in Iran would likely be a massive, weeks-long campaign that would look more like full-fledged war than last month's pinpoint operation in Venezuela, sources say. Now, Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, unfortunately, are still very much involved in all of this. They met with Iran's foreign minister for 3 hours in Geneva on Tuesday, and it looks like that was a giant waste of time. Both sides said that the talks made progress, but the gaps are wide, and US officials aren't optimistic about closing them. Well, they were never optimistic about closing any gaps. They never engaged in negotiations in good faith. They were just buying time. And so Peter Thiel's butt boy, JD Vance, says that Trump has kind of reached his limit with Iran. Take a look.
While talks on Tuesday left both sides saying that progress was made, there are still major questions about Iran's willingness to curb their nuclear program or address the growing regional ballistic missile threat. Yesterday on Fox News, Vice President JD Vance was asked about the negotiations.
They agreed to meet afterwards, but another way.
And I just let's all remember real quick before JD gets into his. JD Vance was the guy, I believe, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, in the Signal chat, and I think it's known that JD Vance did not want us to get involved in any war with Iran. But like any politician, now I'll let him talk.
Ways, it was very clear that the president has set some red lines that the Iranians are not yet willing to actually acknowledge and work through. So we're going to keep on working it. But of course, the president reserves the ability to say when he thinks that diplomacy has reached its natural end. We hope we don't get to that point. But if we do, that'll be the president's call.
Now, if there's anyone expressing concern that Iran was unwilling to negotiate about its nuclear program, which doesn't even exist. If there was anyone who told you that Iran didn't want to dilute their enriched uranium, I just want to be very clear. Those people are lying to you, because Iran on multiple occasions has made it very clear that they do want to engage in good faith and reach a deal. And if you don't believe me, let's just take a look at the latest example. This is Iran's president.
We have stated these many times. My own statements are not important. What matters from an ideological standpoint is the policy and the fatwa of the supreme leader. We are in no way seeking nuclear weapons. Whatever form of verification they want to carry out, we are ready for that verification to take place.
So the only thing that's off the table for Iran is their ballistic missiles. You want to know why? Because they have a hostile country in the region that has bombed every single one of its neighbors. Oh, Israel has bombed 7 different countries over the last 2 years.
I want to stop it there real quickly, because this is going to be the pretext, or has been the pretext, when it comes to justifying if we decide to go to war with Iran. They are not the boogeyman that they've been presented as. They're simply not. People can scream about their bark all they want, and I don't even hear their bark. When I listen to their president, the guy that was just on, he was getting translated, he has always come across as a sensible person to me. Now, I know that they have other people in leadership that may be far more extreme. I understand all that. But that particular guy, he's always come across as very, just very logical to me and has made it very clear. And I don't know if y'all remember that older video that we did a review when Patrick Bet-David misrepresented his words. And a lot of people misrepresented his words when they initially said, he was saying that based on what the European countries are doing to us in America, like it's clear that we're at war. And he was saying that we haven't been attacked like this since the war between Iraq and us. And Patrick Bet-David presented it as he thought that he was saying at war and with the U.S. Like it was something, I forget exactly which one. I may have said it the opposite way, but it was misrepresented in a way to make it seem as if they're declaring war on America, which just seems totally inconsistent when I hear them talk. It seems totally inconsistent with a country that gets their nuclear facilities bombed that clearly mean a lot to that country. Could you imagine what it would mean if our country had its nuclear facility bombed, or how Israel would react if somebody bombed their nuclear weapons that they still haven't acknowledged exist? Could you imagine? It's a declaration of war. So what did Iran decide to do? They decided to call up Trump and say, hey, we got to save face. Y'all just bombed our nuclear facility. Like, how can we lead a country when we're getting attacked like this and we don't even do anything? Our country is not going to respect us. Things are going to get chaotic, hence what we maybe see now happening in Iran. There's going to be no respect for the government. So therefore, we need to make a strike against y'all, do something, or at least put it out there that we struck against y'all. So it's one or the other, you know what I mean? Like, let's just, all right, so we're going to strike this base. And we may not even actually strike the base, but we just need y'all to acknowledge. So therefore, America, we're going to give you time to remove the troops from this particular base. We're going to strike it. And but we're going to make sure that everybody's safe, nobody dies. Once again, it just doesn't seem consistent with a country that is trying to just destroy America. It doesn't. Now, some people in there, I'm sure, do feel that way. Just like I'm sure a lot of Americans would feel that way if somebody was doing to us what we're doing to Iran. So let's keep it moving. I'm going to let her finish, and then we'll get into the conversation that Tucker was having with the pastor.
So if you don't have any way of defending yourself, I mean, aren't you stupid for giving up your ballistic missiles and essentially opening yourself up to attacks from Israel? And that's what Israel wants. They're not worried about Iran necessarily when it comes to their military capability. Israel wants regime.
And this is. So Mamalay. This is the challenge that I have from a thought process standpoint. Mamalay wrote, here's an example of a distraction. Let's not let him and or her interrupt our focus. What should our focus be? Is it a distraction, or is it something that's happening? Because at one point I hear that the Epstein files are a distraction so we can go to war, but then the war is a distraction. Like, what are we being distracted from here? If this is the distraction, then what are we being distracted from? Are we being distracted from the other videos that I put up as far as us not eating healthy with all these processed foods, with the FDA? Are we being distracted because are we being distracted to pay attention to Iran and what's going on with Israel, to not take care of our bodies, to not be healthy, to poison ourselves? What are we being distracted from? Oh, Stinker Bell. Oh, okay. See, my fault. Y'all understand? All right. My apologies. But okay, this. Let's keep it moving. Stinker Bell, yo, just ignore him. Yeah, that I am 100% with Mama Lay on that. Just ignore him. Yeah. Let me see. Is he still in here? Yeah, I'll just block him. I'm gonna block him. The people said, let me see if I can. I'll put him on timeout. Put user on timeout. It should be on timeout. Let me know if y'all still see him in the chat. We'll get rid of it. See how it just distracted from the show? Just ignore them when they start doing that. Yeah. See? Yeah. Just shows the power of distraction. Let's keep it going.
Regime change. That is the whole point. The weapons is just an excuse. That's all it is. That's all it is. It started off with like, oh, we're so afraid of their nuclear weapons, even though they don't have them and we do. But anyway, we want regime change. You should go to war. Okay, Trump bombs their nuclear sites. We want them to get rid of their ballistic missiles and their drones and any means to defend themselves. And Iran is like, no, not interested. Sorry, we're not stupid. We're not going to do what the leadership in Jordan considered doing, which was dismantling and disarming Hezbollah, which opens the way for Israel to come in and annex more land in Lebanon. I'm not saying this as someone who like, ooh, I love Hezbollah, but maybe take a look at why Hezbollah exists and what Hezbollah's main role in Lebanon has been, namely protecting Lebanon from being annexed by Israel. So that's why Iran doesn't want to get rid of its ballistic missiles, and I don't blame them. I think it's unreasonable to demand that of them.
And it's one of those things that's probably, hold on, yeah, I'm seeing the chat. All right, just let me know if Stinker comes up again. Yeah, my apologies for that. It's easy. I tell you one thing that it is easy in here. It's easy to block and it's easy to put people on timeout with this new app. So y'all know how it goes. I rely on y'all to police a lot of this, and we have to do that. So Stinker, you're on timeout, and for anybody else, we just keep it respectful. That's just what we do here. If you want to engage in some other type of conversations, then that's perfectly fine. There's plenty of other places on the internet to do so, but we got to keep it respectful here. So I don't even know what you said or what you did. I wasn't looking at it, but this is what the family is here for, to police that type of stuff. So when it comes to Iran, it's very alarming because it just shows that, in another example, not only just of the contradictions of Trump, but it just seems like we are war heavy people. And I started to think, I'm like, is this just because this just lines people's pockets? And when we start thinking about it from a standpoint of just following the money, we understand that when we go to war, there's a lot of people that make a lot of money in our government. There's a lot of people's families who now become consultants, who now get paid their bonuses as sales reps, because when we go to war, now what does that do for our American or our military industrial complex, everybody that's building weapons in America? What does that do? That's good business. That's big business. We're paying for it out of our tax dollars. We're paying for it. Even if they decide to print the money, we're paying for it because it's going to devalue our money. We're paying for them to make weapons for us to go to war. And then the people that get the bonus checks or the commission checks are the people that are in politics or their family members. So just something to think about. Let's move on to this other video, if we may. I think we all pretty much understand what's going on. I mean, whatever your stance is, I think you understand where your stance is, or have a stance on Iran, what's going on there, what are we going to do? It'll be interesting. So let me get this Tucker clip real quick. Hold on, I thought I had it already. All right. Let me copy and paste this. We're going to get into this conversation with Tucker. And then we got a dope conversation after this that more so focuses on freedom. So, wait, this is not it. Hold on one second. I'm sorry about that. I am sorry about that.
Israel.
I copied the wrong link. There we go. All right, let me get that on the screen for y'all. Boom. I'm going to play the video, but then I'll do my little thing in the background.
Our defense guarantee is meaningless.
I'm going to turn the volume up a little bit because it seems like it's a little low.
What's the strategic importance other than that? Are there trade routes that go through it? They have a ton of oil we need? Like, what is this? You're like, well, we have to be more closely allied with Israel than in their country. It's like, well, why? And no one can answer you. Well, because they're threatened. Well, so are a lot of countries. They're not alone in having neighbors that don't like them. But why is that my problem?
The people who don't like them, the Muslims, surrounding Muslim countries, are also people who don't like us. And Muslims...
Who specifically? Which government are you talking about?
Okay, that's the government of Dearborn, Michigan.
You know, a lot of the Muslims in Dearborn are Christian. Well, I mean, a lot of the Arabs in Michigan are Christian, so just like in point of fact. And I'm okay with them because they're fellow Christians, even though, you know, they look different. But I rate that against the actual threats.
Well, think of it this way. I've seen England and currently every major city in England.
Let me ask y'all this. It reminds me of, and this is a bad example, a very bad example. Matter of fact, I'm not going to bring up that example. But it's like is somebody not liking me, especially based on the things that I do to them. But even putting that to the side, is not liking somebody enough to justify all of these things that these Zionist pastors justify? Oh, because they don't like us, we should be able to continue stealing their land, or we should be complicit in helping Israel create this greater Israel project. We should contribute to Israel and back them up as their big brother as they decide to bomb what Anna said is 7 countries within the last couple years. Like, is it enough? Oh, well, they don't like us, so therefore that's and then to take it even further, why don't they like us? Who would like us? But they never make the connection to say, oh, they don't like us because we support Israel, but then Israel is our most important ally because why? They do surveillance on the other countries in that area. Well, we wouldn't even have an issue with those countries. Right? Monroe Doctrine. We stay out of these. It's not our hemisphere. You know, what did our past? I think George Washington, one of his famous things was not getting involved in all these foreign affairs. It doesn't make any sense. And this is what I mean. Like, we have to understand that now, obviously, everybody, there's no way to control any culture or the teaching of anybody. You know, it's like if you have basketball, not everybody's going to coach basketball the same way. You go to one coach, they're going to tell you how to shoot one way. You go to another coach. So this is not obviously an attack on Christianity, but perhaps this is just an example. Whether this is a Christian pastor, whether it's a Muslim pastor, it doesn't even matter whether it's a Muslim leader, it doesn't matter. Whether it's a priest, it does not matter. The point is that how people can manipulate large groups of people to have a doctrine, to have commandments that you're supposed to live by, to have a certain way that you're supposed to live by, but then we compromise it based on getting finessed into things as silly as, oh, well, yeah, they don't like us. So what? They don't like us. I don't have just because somebody doesn't like me doesn't give me the authority to be able to shoot them, to kill them, or do whatever else I want.
Is governed, it has a Muslim mayor. Their immigration policy has been disastrous like ours. Someone could argue, as I would, that the Muslims who are threatening Israel are Muslims who are threatening us. Islam is a greater threat than the Jews.
Yeah, is the problem with the Muslims of Europe that they're too Muslim or that they're criminal?
Wait, let me go back a second. Did this man just say that Islam is a greater threat than Judaism? Let me, even if that was the case, I don't think it is, but even if that is and was the case, does that is that the justification for committing these atrocities against certain people by just blanketing anybody who's Muslim and just saying, hey, Islam's a greater threat than Judaism, so therefore any Jewish country will will support in them in destroying any Muslim country. This is the mindset of a pastor. And it has nothing to do with him being a pastor. It really has nothing to do with even Christianity. It's the fact that we see how people can be manipulated. We see how we can be manipulated. We see how we can be controlled in different ways. I remember when 9/11 happened. What did everybody do? Nah, I need my American flag outside my house. It causes us to take pride, not only in our country, but to take pride in now the destruction that we're getting ready to cause in another country, which is why they were able to now, you got 9/11 happening, but then we go to war with Iraq, like with Saddam. What does that have to? These are the justifications that we allow in our mind. And to even say that it's a bigger threat than Judaism, what are you talking about? You would only say that Islam is a greater threat to our country than Judaism if you acknowledge that our country is a Jewish-run country, that we are a Jewish country. I don't know where all of this, or when they started saying that America's a Judeo-Christian country. I don't know when we started to accept that our country is being controlled by another country, that their big homie is bigger than our big homie, even though we support them and allow our troops to fight their battles. With the Iraq war, they didn't send out one troop, and we had thousands of our soldiers dying. Like, how does that make sense? How are you a greater threat to, how is one a greater threat than the people that are controlling our government? How is one a greater threat than the people that are even creating the whole point of us having threat in the first place? If we weren't supporting Israel, we wouldn't even have a Islamic threat. Okay, let's keep it going.
Islam is a greater threat than the Jews.
Yeah, is the problem with the Muslims of Europe that they're too Muslim or that they're criminals?
Well,
I mean,
that's the same thing.
Yeah, it's not though, actually, and it's not. And
no, the
I
Muslim,
mean, let me ask you this, and
let's run that back. That's a big part of this conversation.
Or that they're criminals.
The Muslims.
Listen to what he just said.
Yeah, is the problem with the Muslims of Europe that they're too Muslim or that they're criminals?
Well,
I mean,
that's the same thing.
Yeah.
For any religious leader to say something like that is wild. But we have to understand who's leading us, who has established our culture. Even if it's not leading us specifically, we have to take into account that there's a lot of influential factors here. No different than we would look at in any other area. Okay, hey, I don't like this aspect of American culture. Okay, who's influencing this? Okay, we need to make sure that we have certain influences to where the kids are not feeling the need to go that direction, but that they're willing to go this direction. This man just said that, Tucker asked, is the problem that they're too Muslim or that they're criminals? Now, I've received that question as, there's certain people that are criminals, but there's certain Christians that are criminals. There's certain Jewish people that are criminals. There's certain Buddhists that are criminals. There's certain people that are Hindu that are criminals across the board. White, black, like all this type of stuff, right? We understand. But he's trying to lump it in and say, oh, no, they're criminals because they're Muslims. That's what he's trying to say. Meanwhile, who does the UN, like, who's running around trying to evade war crimes, being held, can't go to certain countries, can't go to certain conferences because the war crimes that they're committing? It's Bibi Netanyahu in Israel. But for some reason, we have a very skewed view the way that we look at this.
It's not, though, actually, and it's not.
And I saw somebody earlier commending Tucker. We need to all commend Tucker because what Tucker is doing, and a lot of people didn't like Tucker when he was on Fox, we need to understand that Tucker Carlson, in the last 5 years, or at least the last two or three, I've seen him do more interviews that challenge our establishment than anybody else. He interviewed Putin. He interviewed the president of Iran. He's interviewing all these people, and what he's doing by interviewing them is giving them a voice because our country does not want them to have a voice. Our country wants us to all think that they are the boogeyman, that all they do when they get a mic is scream death to America. They want to destroy America. So when Tucker Carlson gives them a mic, he's taking a huge risk on his life when he's doing these things. When he's calling out Epstein certain relationships and going to Turning Point USA events, there's a reason why Mark Levin and why a lot of people who are Zionists do not like Tucker, because he's exposing the narrative that they use in order to commit the atrocities that they commit. And he's exposing it in a way where we're looking at it like, oh, nah, that ain't it. He's doing the documentary on 9/11. He's doing the documentary exposing some of this stuff and having us look at this a little bit differently. He's the one unpacking this, so he's changing the way that we look at stuff. So he definitely deserves a lot of credit for this, because I'm sure that this is not an easy thing to do, and he's receiving threats. Even if he's not receiving threats, we know how this works. When you start saying certain things, speaking out against certain things on his type of platform, we know how this works. And it's not like going over to Israel, it's not like journalists that are not super pro-Israel have a good record of surviving when it comes to being in that region. So definitely got to give Tucker some props.
That they're too Muslim or that they're criminals?
Well,
I mean,
that's the same thing.
Yeah, it's not though, actually, and it's not. And
no, the
Muslim. Let me ask you this, and I'm totally not for Islam. Okay, I'm a Christian. Why are there twice as many Christians living in Qatar as there are in Israel, do you think?
Twice as many Christians in Qatar as
in Qatar. Yeah, the Islamist slave state that we hear so much about. But there are twice as many Christians living there as in Israel. And they can leave if they want. They came freely, but there are twice as many in Qatar. Why do you think that is?
Can they build churches?
Yeah, actually the state gave them the land for their churches. But why is that if what you're saying is true? Because it's not true, actually. The reality.
You saw Tucker this is why you gotta have the knowledge to even respond to a lot of these things. Can they build churches? Yeah, actually the state funded, them to build churches. But I never hear these pastors asking questions about, can you even get married in Israel? Didn't we go over that? Isn't that a thing? Somebody write that in the chat. And hopefully I'll catch it. But let me hold on, let me look this up. I think we already looked it up. Can you get married? Can Christians get married in Israel? I think it's just relevant since he's talking about all these things. Can you build churches? So it says, yes, Christians can get married in Israel, but only through authorized church or religious courts, as no civil marriage exists for citizens. 10 specific denominations, including Greek Orthodox and Roman Catholic, are recognized. Both partners must be Christian. Interfaith marriages within Israel are not permitted. So you can get, hold on. So marriages are conducted by recognized religious authorities for each community. The marriage must be registered with the Israeli Ministry of Interior. Interfaith restrictions. A Christian cannot marry a non-Christian in Israel unless one party converts. That doesn't sound like much religious freedom to me. Procedures for Protestant marriages are often handled on a case-by-case basis through the ministry. I feel like I got to look into this, because I feel like the last time I looked into it, it didn't, it said something like, hold on, I got to do a little bit deeper dive into it. Requirements. Both parties must typically belong to the same Christian denomination. Israel officially recognizes 10 Christian authorized to perform. Hold on. So can you get married, or do they just recognize it? Maybe I'll look at this a little later. Let me keep going. I'll keep going with the video, and then I'll look this up in the background.
That you experience when you get outside the American media biosphere is so different the reality from what you're describing. The second question I want to ask is, how do we get all these Muslims here after 9/11? They all came after 9/11.
Yeah.
Who encouraged that exactly? Who encouraged that? And it's a lot of the same people who are now encouraging us to hate Muslims. ADL.
Oh, ADL.
Completely for that. They encourage that. So what is that? But I know that the same people who are like, Islam is the problem, are the same people who brought us all these Muslims here.
Right, because
I feel like I'm being played a little bit. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The same people crying anti-Semitism constantly, telling me I can't have free speech rights because there's anti-Semitism, are the same people telling us that we have to hate Muslims because they're Muslim.
Well,
and how is hating Muslims better than hating Jews?
Yeah, it's not.
Exactly.
If you hate Muslims because they're Muslim, that's
the same as hating Jews because they're Jewish.
Yeah, correct.
I'm out.
But if you are opposed to Muslims who have read the Quran, which I've done a couple times, I read through the Quran, and the Muslim Brotherhood, the people, the jihadis,
right,
are not twisting the Quran.
I'm sure. I wouldn't know.
They are being consistent with it, and I see them as a far greater threat to the West than the state of Israel is. And so protecting Israel from Muslims, you could argue, is a roundabout way of protecting, it's a proxy.
How's that work for us? So we
war.
went to war in Iraq in March of 2003 at the behest of Israel. Flat out. Bibi said it. Glad you're doing it.
And real quick, I'm gonna just to give you an update real quick. So it's saying that I believe you can, but you just can't marry. You can only marry people of the same faith in Israel. That's what I'm walking away with right now. So we'll leave that. We'll come back to that another day or something. But I just want to be very clear that I expressed that because initially I said that I don't think that people can get married there. So you can, but you can't get married if you're not the same faith. Yeah.
And
I'll run this back a couple of seconds just to interrupt you.
Is a roundabout way of protecting. It's a proxy.
How's that work for us? So we
war.
went to war in Iraq in March of 2003 at the behest of Israel. Flat out. Bibi said it. Glad you're doing it. And I don't know, there's no debate about that. And then in the years since, we've gotten millions of Muslims in the United States, millions, since the Iraq War.
Yeah.
So how's that program worked out for us? We didn't have any Muslims in the United States when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And as our support for Israel has become more and more fanatical, which it is, it's fanatical, can't even discuss it, anti-Semite, we've gotten more Muslims. So I don't think this works the way that we think it does.
Right. I think that the whole system at the top is demented.
Yeah, you think?
But that doesn't change the facts on the ground. We've got the problem that we have in Dearborn is a problem that London has and a bunch of other UK cities have.
I would argue that because we are involved militarily and on many other levels in the Middle East, at the behest of Israel, we're there because of Israel. We have an air base in Qatar because of Israel. We have all these troops there because of Israel. We have a lot of Muslims.
We might have an air base in...
The government does not recognize the marriage. So it seems like the government does not recognize the marriage. So it seems as if it's governed by religious law rather than civil law. So the government does not recognize a marriage basically of Christians. So yes, Christians can legally marry. And I think I read this earlier. I'm not sure that I understood what I was reading. But yes, Christians can legally marry in Israel, but the process is governed by religious law rather than civil law. So let me ask this question. Hold on. How does it work in America? That's the question I want to ask. I want to ask them, is this the case in America as far as civil war? And I think I know the answer, but I just want to be sure, because just like I didn't know that America didn't have a formal language or declared language, I believe, until Donald Trump. I just want to make sure that it's the same here. So no, the legal situation in America is the opposite of that in Israel. In the United States, marriage is fundamentally a civil contract governed by state law, not religious law. Okay, so it's different in America. So let me ask this. Can Jewish people in Israel get married under civil law? Because I want to know if it's just because maybe Jewish people only get married under religious law. Maybe it's not recognized. So this is why I wanted to ask. Okay, so it says, no, Jewish people cannot get married under civil law inside Israel. According to the rabbinical court jurisdiction law of 1953, all matters of marriage and divorce for Jews in Israel are conducted exclusively under Orthodox Jewish law. So it's across the board. So I just wanted to be clear on that. I don't want y'all walking away ever taking something that I say and it not being consistent. So Israel has no domestic secular civil marriage system. Okay. So across the board. So the biggest difference when it comes to, wait, so why did they just say? Okay, so the biggest difference between America and Israel, one, we have civil marriages, and two, we allow anybody to marry whoever. We have the religious freedom of marrying whoever you want, interfaith marriages, where in Israel, they don't allow it. So that's the biggest difference.
Idaho, Qatari, if the deal goes through.
Why is that? Because Israel bombed Doha because they were doing we were doing a peace negotiation with Hamas. Why is that our job? Why is any of this our job? We've invaded the world and then we've imported the world. It happened to Britain. That's why they got immigration in the 60s, because their empire was coming down and they're like, oh, you're from Barbados, you're from Nigeria, those were British colonies, you move here.
Right.
And we're doing the same thing. So how about we don't have actual interests in the Middle East other than oil. Let's just pull back, because this is destroying our country, what the Israeli government is doing in Gaza, which is totally indefensible as far as I'm concerned. How about let the kids leave? No. How about let food in? No. You have the most precise munitions in the world, but you're blowing up Christian churches and schools and hospitals? Tell me why you're doing that. What the Israeli government is doing in Gaza is terrorism and unconscionable. No one denies that tens of thousands of children have been killed in Gaza. It's just an absolute fact. I visited some of their surviving siblings last week, and all of a sudden people are like, it doesn't matter if the kids get killed, or they blow up 2 churches in Gaza.
Were there tunnels underneath them?
They never claimed there were tunnels underneath.
No, I'm just asking.
Yo, these questions are wild. Were there tunnels underneath them? And shout out to Michelle. I see her. Everybody like. Do us a favor, like. So this man gets asked the question. Listen to this.
You're doing that. What the Israeli government is doing in Gaza is terrorism and unconscionable. No one denies that tens of thousands of children have been killed in Gaza. It's just an absolute fact. I visited some of their surviving siblings last week, and all of a sudden people are like, it doesn't matter if the kids get killed, or they blow up 2 churches in Gaza.
Were there tunnels underneath
them? They never claimed there were tunnels.
Were there tunnels underneath them? Could you imagine the same logic be applied in Israel? Were there terrorists in the building? Were there any war criminals in the building? Oh yeah, there was a war criminal in the building who happens to be we would look at that a lot differently. But we're gonna I'm not sure. We'll listen to maybe a couple more, a little bit of this. I don't know if we only got 2 minutes.
Tunnels underneath.
No, I'm just asking.
No, but it's like insane. And by the way, if there were tunnels underneath, sorry. You still can't blow up a Christian church when all your money's coming from a majority Christian country. Sorry, there are limits on what you can do.
Okay.
Tough luck. Anybody who's out there trying to squelch criticism of Israel, ask, is it like regrettable, sad, maybe even immoral to kill someone, a child who did nothing wrong? And if you can't say that, then we're just operating from different worlds. I'm sorry. Why can't you say that? Why is that so threatening to say, probably not a good idea to kill a child? They will not say that, and they much less apologize for it. Why bomb churches in Gaza? Tell me. You've got the capacity to put bombs in people's pagers, but you accidentally hit 2 churches? Not an accident. How about you ask for our forgiveness? Israel has not allowed food aid into 2 million people. There's no infrastructure whatsoever. There's no business. They flattened 70% of it. We know that from satellite photos. And so what is that? Their entire country is dependent on U.S. taxpayer dollars. There would be no wars fought by Israel alone, because it's got 9 million people and no resources. They have a reserve military. They don't have enough people. A huge chunk of their country doesn't work, but no one can admit it. They all have to lie about everything. If Israel does stuff that I despise, my view is, I don't want to pay for that, okay?
Right.
Get out of my country. Stop trying to censor me. Go do your own thing in your own Eastern country, which is not Western, sorry.
The West Bank, the conflict there is not caused by Israel holding the West Bank. Israel holds the West Bank because of the conflict. So when Israel was formed, the next day or whatever it was, they were invaded. So a lot of what the Israel has.
Well, the West Bank was taken by Israel in 1967 from Jordan.
Right.
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 So Israel proper, the West Bank is what we used to call an occupied territory. Now they have a new name for it. A lot of Israelis used to say, like, we've got Gaza, we said Golan Heights, and we've got what we call the West Bank. And those are what we call the occupied territories. They're majority Arab, majority Muslim Arab, though tons of Christians, fewer now. But yeah, what do you do with that? You can't call yourself a democracy if they don't have full citizenship, but you can't give them full citizenship because then they'll vote you out.
And that last part that he just mentioned is why Israel, it has to either be that's why they just have to expel people. That's why they have to ethnically cleanse. Because if you allow the Palestinians to be a part of the same state as the Israelis, and it's just one state, right? It's just one state. This is exactly why what Tucker said at the end, as far as if you're a democracy as they claim to be, and this is one of the reasons why everybody seems to think it's so important for us to have Israel as an ally, because they're the only democracy in that region, allegedly. But when you have that, what ends up happening? Okay, all right, we're a democracy. Why are people so up in arms about so many migrants coming here and so many people coming to Dearborn, Michigan? Because they get the right to vote, right? So they're going to be able to change the culture. Bibi Netanyahu and Israel, they don't want that. They don't want that, because then Palestinians, if they have the right to vote, what are they going to vote for? That's what scares Bibi Netanyahu. So this is it. They're disguising it as a democracy, just like they disguise this Palestine as anything other than, this open air prison or Gaza, West Bank. I forget exactly what particular area it is. But this occupation, they are disguising their occupation. They're disguising it. And as a matter of fact, I don't even know if they're disguising it. But us getting propagandized and finessed and indoctrinated our entire lives, and then hearing from people like this pastor, this Zionist, I'm a lead with Zionist rather than, he could be a Christian pastor, but it's almost like what Tucker said earlier. Like, is it the problem that they're Muslims or the problem that, they're criminals? Like the criminals are the problems. Basically saying, like, we already went over that. Anybody can be a criminal. But this is a Zionist problem. This particular aspect of it, I don't even want to get into the whole, Christian pastor thing, even though the video that we're getting ready to watch is a bit interesting when it comes to religion. But this particular video, like, I don't hold all pastors to have his mindset. This is just a Zionist mindset. So I do want to be clear on that. All right, so let's move on. We have another video that I want to take a look at. So I was introduced to this Professor Zhang. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with him, but I started watching some of his clips yesterday, and I was impressed. I was impressed by some of the questions that he brought up, and just kind of processing everything. I'm not even saying that I completely agree. I don't know if I agree or disagree yet, but I was watching some of it, and I was like, you know what? Let's have the conversation regarding this. Get your thoughts on it. So let me start this video, and I'll play with the dimensions a bit on my end.
This is the book, The Brothers Karamazov.
And I guess I should look at my fault. Let me check the chat just to make sure. I'm trying to make sure that it's hard to pay attention to both. Y'all holding it down in the chat. I know y'all have your own combo. I always feel bad when I'm not totally locked in and recognizing the post or the comments, but y'all know. Sometimes I have FOMO, man. I feel like y'all are having your own conversation without me, man. I feel like, damn, but I'm just joking. All right, let's take a look at this, and then we'll have the combo.
So this is the book, The Brothers Karamazov by Theodore Dostoevsky. He's talking about the problem left by Jesus. Jesus comes to the world. He tells us the truth. He tells us freedom is what will enable us to seek the divine. But this creates this anxiety in people because, oh my God, now I have to think for myself. Now I have to go out into the light and feel all this pain. But I don't want to. I just want to live a happy life. I just want to watch TV every day, man. And then so, and so then the church is like, okay, we need to create an organized religion, and we need to fool people, okay? How do we fool people? By teaching them that Jesus did actually say these things. And we will not worship Jesus, we will worship Satan instead. Why? Because Satan encourages us to enforce our will on people. Okay? We need to be evil in order to do good in the world. Okay? Think about this. These children are naughty in the world, people. Okay? We need to be evil in order to do good in the world. Okay? Think about this. These children are naughty, right? Now, we can say to them like Jesus, hey man, you'll grow up one day and then you won't be naughty. So, okay? But in this process, you're gonna hurt each other. You're gonna do stupid things. So we have to be the strict father. We have to create this church in order to enforce the law on people to make sure the children don't hurt themselves, so that children can just be children, okay? And quite honestly, most of you guys, 99% of you guys will never ever grow up. So we have to be Satan, okay? So the church, the Catholic Church, will pretend to worship Jesus, but actually we're gonna worship Satan. And so we're gonna enforce the law on people. We will now be the evil empire. The Roman Empire is dead, okay? But now the Catholic Church will be the evil empire. And we're gonna go around and we're gonna persecute people who disobey the law so that everyone can live in peace. People wanna be sheep. And you know what? People have the right to be sheep. And so we're going to be the shepherd. We will be Satan. And we will enforce goodness on people whether they like it or not.
And this is why I said that the Social Security part may come back up. This took me a while to kind of process and to understand exactly what he was saying. So if it's okay with y'all, I'm going to run it back just a few seconds just so I can hear some of the points that he made one more time.
But in this process, you're going to hurt each other.
And however, and I think that we can all be mature and understand that, you know, every church is different, even though there is a certain cultural aspects that seem to be consistent across the board and lead the energy of certain things. You know, we talk about this all the time. We're not talking about this group, but we are talking about the dominant culture. So I do think that is important, but let's keep it moving.
You're going to do stupid things. So we have to be the strict father. We have to create this church in order to enforce the law on people to make sure the children don't hurt themselves, so that children can just be children, okay? And quite honestly, most of you guys, 99% of you guys will never ever grow up. So we have to be Satan, okay? So the church, the Catholic Church, will pretend to worship Jesus, but actually we're gonna worship Satan. And so we're gonna enforce the law on people. We will.
Think about some of the justifications for slavery, for colonialism. We just watched that video the other day. I forget exactly what video it was, but they were describing that when Europeans came to America and colonized America, killing throughout the Americas, I think it's estimated upwards of like 100 million people that were killed. And they were calling the people that they were killing savages. But the people that they were killing were just living their lives. And I don't think that the people that they killed the same amount of people as the colonizers. But this is what we see over and over. Oh, why can we enslave this group? Oh, we can enslave this group because they're less than, they're beastly creatures. That's always seems to be the justification for committing evil. There's always a justification as if you're helping somebody or if you need to step in order to commit certain evil, that we know you're only committing the evil to put yourself in the best position to have power, to have leverage, to have control, to have wealth. Think about the interview that we just watched with Tucker. Think about what we see Israel doing. Israel's now acting like they're doing a freedom fight for Iran, for the Iranian people. The same people that are okay with Palestine being pummeled are now walking around with Make Iran Great Again hats, are now acting as if they're stepping in for the Iranian people, as if we're stupid and we don't see the play. Oh, we need to step in and help the Iranian people, and we need to have this regime change. And they're propagandizing. This is how they do it. They create this chaos in these countries, in these cities. And then when they can create the chaos, they can pay for, certain protesters and whatnot. They can stage a lot of this stuff. They can pay to see the result. They can pay to get the result that they want. And then once that chaos is there, once people are now protesting the government, because we're crippling their government, then the people lose respect for their government. The government, because we're crippling them, is not able to provide for the people. Now the people are standing up against the government, and now we can come in as the savior.
Will now be the evil empire. The Roman Empire is dead, okay? But now the Catholic Church will be the evil empire. And we're going to go around and we're going to persecute people who disobey the law so that everyone can live in peace. People want to be sheep. And you know what? People have the right to be sheep. And so we're going to be the shepherd. We will be Satan. And we will enforce goodness on people whether they like it or not. And this is good for people because now they don't have to accept individual responsibility, right? If my life sucks, it's not because of me, it's because of the devil. It's because of the Catholic Church. It's because of Satan. And that's what's good. Okay? So Dostoevsky is saying this is how the Catholic Church came into being. And we'll discuss this in the next class in more detail, okay? Because Jesus left a huge problem, a void in the hearts of people. People want to obey. People want to be told what to do. People don't want to think for themselves. If you make people think for themselves, they'll feel nothing but fear and anxiety. Okay? So we need to impose order. So in this story, what happens is the Catholic Church.
Think about what he just said, and then think about, who was it, Rockefeller? Yeah, I think it was Rockefeller. When Rockefeller, what's Rockefeller's quote? We always talk about it. When he's talking about the Board of Education, I believe he said that his intention is not to create thinkers, but it's to create workers. Hold on, what did Rockefeller say about education, Board of Ed, thinkers or workers? Hold on, let me see real quick. Hopefully they can give me an answer on this. All right, so John D. Rockefeller, he said, I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers. Think about that. And then listen to what he just said again.
People want to obey. People want to be told what to do. People don't want to think for themselves. If you make people think for themselves, they'll feel nothing but fear and anxiety. Okay?
This is how they got us. They create a system. They tell you you have to go to school. Then you have to go to college. But now you're only equipped with certain tools and skills to be a part of the system, to be a worker. We've been indoctrinated at a very young age to simply become workers for the wealthy people that we're no longer calling elite. Shout out to Dutch. I saw Dutch in the building. That we're no longer calling elites, these oligarchs. We have been conditioned and indoctrinated at a very young age. As soon as they were able to put this Board of Education system to where, okay, we got them. You telling me we get to control their kids, we get to raise their kids, we get to be around their kids and instruct their kids, 4 times the amount of time that their parents are spending with them? Maybe even more than that in a lot of cases. Now they're a part of our system. We get them committed in pre-K. They should do a study on this. How many kids that enter pre-K end up finishing high school? Compared to if those kids, before we had the board, I mean, it's hard to make a comparison, but the reason why I say we should study that is because that's a pretty good conversion rate. People sticking to anything that long, think about it. What have you stuck to that long? Just because. So now these people in our children's age where they're learning the most, they're developing the most important ages for their development, can't talk today, the most important ages for their development, we're now giving to the government. Who do you think's creating the curriculum? Oh, you thought it was Miss Jackson. You thought it was Miss Jackson. You thought it was Miss Alvarez. Shout out to Miss Alvarez, one of my favorite teachers. Her and Miss Gillette, and Miss Whitlock was dope too. But Miss Alvarez, that's my girl. Y'all thought that they were creating the curriculum, or we thought that they were creating the curriculum. No, the government is creating the curriculum. The oligarchs are creating the curriculum. And now, based on all of these things that we know about our government, how can we trust our government to raise our kids? They're going to do what's in the best interest of them, not what's in the best interest of the kids. They don't care about the development of the kids. They just want the country, which is a business, right? The president is just the CEO. So like most CEOs, do you think he cares about your life outside or your life at home? Or does he care more so about how you perform on the job based on his business? Because who does the CEO report to? The CEO reports to the board, right? So the CEO needs to make sure, in order to keep the CEO's job, he needs to make sure that you're performing well. Not being a good father, not being a good mother, not being a good brother. No, performing the duties that are required for this company to do well. And it's no different when it comes to America. So we should think about that when we throw our kids in public school as babysitters because, oh, well, we have to go to work. Okay, so now we separate the kids from the parents because the parents have to go to work. So the parents can't create something to where the kids can help grow it together. Maybe this is why we got away from, the farms and the factories, or I don't know. Maybe this is why we're not having as many kids, because we look at kids now as, instead of assets, we look at them as liabilities. When we were around our family just based out of necessity, and this is something that has always come up where we talk about it from time to time, where it's like a lot of times the things that we should do naturally, the things that we should lean into, we only do out of necessity. Like being with our family. I want to get my own spot. Why would I want to be around my parents every day? The people that love me the most. Why would I want to be around my village every day? The people that care about me. We know we have a problem with getting people united. Why would I want to be united amongst my family members? Why would I want to be united against my friends and family, like whoever lives in my tribe? Why would I want that? No, we only turn to that when we're forced to turn to that, unfortunately. So I don't know. I went off on this tangent, contributed to that tangent, but let's get back to the video.
So we need to impose order. So in this story, what happens is the Catholic Church is being the evil empire. It is oppressing people. And so one day Jesus comes from heaven and he walks among the people. And people will know, oh my God.
Hold up, Unc. Hold up, Unc. Hold up, Unc. Oh my God. Unc. I wish I could put this on the screen. It may be on the screen. So Unc said, this is the reason why most people don't get the idea that poverty is really not a choice. Some people have the idea to think that poverty is a choice. It's not. Unc, having poverty in a society may not be a choice, but whether you're impoverished is a choice. Just like going into a basketball game and saying, people think losing is a choice. Losing is not a choice. Like it's just going to happen. No, somebody has to lose in a game. There's no choice on that. Somebody has to lose, but you decide whether you win or you lose based on your actions. So I'm not sure exactly how you meant it, Unc, but when you say that poverty is not a choice, it's a choice whether or not you're the one that's in poverty. Now, you can say, well, in a capitalist society, there's always going to be people living in poverty. There's always going to be the lower class, the middle class, the upper class. Yes, but you decide based on your decisions, based on your actions, whether or not you're going to be in that lower class. So I do want to be very clear on that. I have to stand on that. And let me see. Yeah. Yeah. So I think we're on the same page.
He's Jesus. He's come back, and he's curing people, and they're all happy. But because the Catholic Church worships Satan, they need to arrest this guy, okay? And the Grand Inquisitor, the leader, appears before Jesus. They have a conversation that Jesus is called a prisoner in the story. And he says to the prisoner, "We know who you are. You are Jesus. And we're supposed to worship you, but we're going to have to kill you because you are a threat to the people. You're a threat to the happiness of the people." Okay? And what the Grand Inquisitor will say to Jesus is, "We create good in this world by being evil. And your presence will destroy this. And therefore, we must destroy you." Okay? So this is from the brothers Karamazov. Okay? "Thou this," okay?
"Thou didst not love them at all. Thou who didst come to give thy life for them. Instead of taking possession of man's freedom, thou didst increase it and burden the spiritual kingdom of mankind with its suffering forever." Okay, so what he's saying is you came to this world to free people, to tell them that the Monad exists, that there's a spark inside them, that they don't have to be slaves, they can go where they want. But that just confuses people. That traps people in their own fear and anxiety. Life now becomes complicated. Okay?
Think about what he just said. If you convince people that, yo, you actually have the power to control anything in your life, see, that creates a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of people that want to believe, no, this is just the system. I can't get out of poverty. It just is what it is. Or I have to do this. People like being able to predict what tomorrow is going to look like. People like control when somebody else is controlling. People do not want the anxiety and the fear that comes with having to do things on their own. What do people run from? We talk about this all the time. A lot of our issues are the results of people running from accountability. What did we start off the show? I believe Finn and Steve were talking about it. You can't have freedom without accountability, right? You can't have freedom without accountability. So people choose slavery, so therefore they can relax and don't need to be accountable. What is the famous Harriet Tubman saying? She didn't actually say it. I think it's pretty much agreed that she didn't actually say it, but the point still stands. She said, "I freed thousands of slaves, and I would have freed thousands more," or she freed hundreds of slaves, would have freed thousands of more if they even knew that they were slaves. See, we think that everybody wanted to just get out of slavery. We think that. I was driving, Maya and I were driving to the airport the other day, to Newark Airport, and we were, what is that, Southern State Prison? I think it's Southern State Prison. And we were talking about how there's a lot of people in that prison that feel more comfortable in prison than they do outside of prison. Now, you could say it's for whatever reason, and, you know, they're institutionalized. You could say for whatever reason. But there's a lot of people that will choose that or feel more comfortable there in a place where I would never feel comfortable. I mean, you adapt to any situation, but nah, I'm not adapting to, no, absolutely, yeah. Y'all understand the point that I'm making. But people choose that based on decisions, like a lot of this stuff. People fear freedom. And I don't think that a lot of us in this chat, I believe we embrace that or we understand that. But outside of, just amongst society, I don't think that everybody really grasps that concept. Like when you tell somebody, like, yo, it's all on you. How many times do we watch football games or basketball games at the end of a game? A player could be doing whatever they're doing, performing well, relaxed throughout the entire game. But when they get the ball and, hey, we just going to give you the ball. How many times do we see people freeze up? Or not everybody's willing to take, hey, the people on that team that were willing to take shots all game, at the end of the game, when there's one shot left, that's going to determine whether or not y'all win the game or you go home and the season's over. You don't get that extra bonus money. Not everybody wants the ball in their hands. That's when things are all on you, it can become overbearing for a lot of people. And I think that our society has been created to encourage that. Our society, especially with work, the structure of how our work is, our society is created to where, entrepreneurship is scary. It is a scary thing. So therefore, what does our society encourage us to do? Oh, you don't have to be scared. Because what entrepreneurship is, it's a more direct relationship between what you hunt, what you kill is what you eat. See, that's not what the comfort of a different type of job is. It has nothing to do with what you hunt, which is what you eat. It's not that. It's, hey, we're going to bank that. We're going to bank on it. This is what any company that hires you, they're banking on the value that you give them is going to be greater than the amount of money that they pay you. That's the only way a business works. The only way a business works is if the amount of value that you give them, they can pay you less than that. For them to be as profitable as they can be, they need to make sure that you're exceeding the amount of money that they pay you. That's how I see it. Now, you can look at different situations. I'm sure there's anomalies here and there, but that's ultimately what it is. Because if you just decided to walk away and be independent, and I think Andy was talking about this in a comment on a different video where he was saying like, I had a job I was independent and working on my own 1099 and I was making a lot more money. But now that I have a family with the kids and stuff, I kind of, there were certain pressures that led me to more so go with the 9-to-5 because it's consistent. Yeah, but it's just a decision. I'm not sitting here saying that one is better than the other. What I'm calling out is the fact that we have a society that has been created to where it makes it even that much more scary to not just go along with what the system is. They do this intentionally. They want to create as much chaos, so therefore what? We'll ask for a rule. Because if things got chaotic in this world where, let's say that there was a purge and people just running around killing each other, then I'd be raising my hand like, we need to get some police up in here. We need some structure. There's been plenty of moments in my life where over the last couple of years where I've shifted my thought on religion in ways where I'm like, nah. There's a whole lot of people overall as a group. I'm not even gonna say these people, but overall, we need religion. I've gotten to the point where I've said that multiple times to myself because you look at how people are, wait, what? And it's like, we need a form of religion. We need a form of control. When people get out of line, that's when it's like, all right, bro. It's no different than being in the classroom. Teacher gave us free time, but this kid is doing too damn much with the free time. So now what does the teacher do? You know what? Matter of fact, everybody back to your desk. No more free time. That's what happens.
Keep on going.
Thou didst desire man's free love, that he should follow thee freely, enticed and taken captive by thee. In place of the rigid ancient law, man must hereafter with free heart decide for himself what is good and what is evil, having only thy image before him as his guide.
Okay, this is like really annoying, okay, for people, because before your teacher would tell you what is good and what is evil. Now the teacher's saying, you guys decide. Now it's complete chaos. Okay, and again, it creates anxiety in people. People just want to be told what to do. Okay, people were like, at 5 o'clock, we're gonna have dinner at Pizza Hut. Okay, people don't want to be like, what should I have for dinner? Okay, people don't want to think, man. Okay, keep on going.
This is the fact. Yo, this is the fact. I know that this is the same for y'all. I literally. Maya and I, we get into, not back and forth, but it literally gives you anxiety sometimes just trying to decide, what are we going to do for dinner? What are we eating? Just imagine that. I'm thinking about my mom and my dad, too. I'm just thinking about different relationships or different people that you see. That could be an actual, that's a funny example of one of those stressful situations. I don't know. I don't know. Now I'm thinking about my dad ordering food. I'm not gonna get on my dad at the restaurant. But you go to a good restaurant and there's so many good options. It's like, it's like sometimes you go. This is one of the reasons why my dad, and now he likes it. But there was a restaurant, I think it was Cheesecake, and I may be completely wrong on this, and I'm sure I'll get a text from my dad in a sec. But I remember my dad, like, initially just being like, yo, this damn menu's too big. Like, it's too big. Like, it's too much to choose from. And I may be completely wrong. Dad, let me know if I'm wrong on that. But I can recall, like, yeah. But it's like a lot of us, it's like, yo, there's too many things on this menu. Like, yo, just give me like, yo, all right, you got your steak, you got your short rib, you got your fish items, you got your vegetarian, then you got to keep it simple. And it's a lot less stressful compared to when you have a lot of different options. Do y'all know how stressful it is to be the eligible bachelor out here, or to be in high demand as an eligible bachelor? Not me. I'm not talking about me. I'm not a eligible bachelor. But y'all know how stressful it is for a lot of these guys out here. They got all these different options and they like, damn, it's like I look back at a lot of, this may get me in trouble. Yeah, I'm not going that direction. All right. Yeah, I'm not going that direction. All right, let's fresh. This is maturity that y'all are witnessing in real time. And it has nothing to do with me. I was just something I observed based on like certain people who get married versus people who don't get married, or why certain people have challenges getting married and settling. Let's keep going with the video.
Going.
But didst thou not know that he would at last reject even thy image and thy truth, if he is weighed down with a fearful burden of free choice? They will cry aloud at last that the truth is not in thee, for they could not have been left in greater confusion and suffering than thou hast caused, laying upon them so many cares and unanswerable problems.
Okay, right? You're creating all this anxiety in people for no particular reason. People were happy just being slaves. And now you free them and they're completely confused as to what to do next. All right, keep on reading.
Only some thousands.
Okay, so what he's saying again is your freedom is only good for the minority of people who think for themselves, who aspire to the divine. What about everyone else?
And what of the rest? And how are the other weak ones to blame, because they cannot endure what the strong have endured? How is a weak soul to blame that it is unable to receive such terrible gifts? Canst thou have simply come to the elect and for the elect? But if so, it is a mystery and we cannot understand it. And if it is a mystery, we too have a right to preach a mystery, and to teach them that it's not the free judgment of their hearts, not love that mattered, but a mystery which they must follow blindly, even against their conscience, so we have done.
Okay, all right. So what he's saying is this, okay? I understand Christianity is complete chaos, okay? But this complete chaos means people will never understand what your true teachings are. If people don't understand what your true teachings are, they don't have to follow it. They don't have to think for themselves, okay? So we created complete chaos so that people will not be forced to obey us, okay? That's why we corrupted your teachings. Keep on going.
We have corrected thy work and have founded it upon miracle, mystery, and authority. And men rejoice that they were again led like sheep, and that the terrible gift that had brought them such suffering was at last lifted from their hearts. Were we right teaching them this? Speak. Did we not love mankind so meekly acknowledging their feebleness, lovingly lightening their burden, and permitting their weak nature even sin with or sanction? Why hast thou come now to hinder us?
Okay, do you understand this idea? They understand is, why is there evil in the world? Because people don't want to think for themselves. So you need evil people to command people, to enslave people, to force them against their will. Now people are like, well, I don't have a choice in the matter. I can't think for myself. Sorry, man. Okay?
how many times do we see this in politics where it's almost, we've talked about this before, where it's almost like a better position to be in when your group is not in office, because then you can just complain, right? You could just complain. It's like, hey, this is not our choice. We're complaining about who's in office. They're doing things wrong. But then when you actually get in office, it's like, wait, the same thing. They just figured the same thing. They just figured out different ways. You make life so expensive, and if you control the workforce, and if you can dictate the affordability of life, then you can create as many slaves as you want. Because now they're just working to pay their bills, to pay for the things that you determine the price on. So if you want them more committed and appreciative of the jobs that they do have, if you want them working harder at the jobs that they do have, what do? Make it harder to afford to live in that particular area. Make it harder for them to survive without just tapping out and saying, you know what, y'all got me, man. Just, all right, what y'all got for me? I'll work for you. You get what I'm saying? This is how a lot of this stuff works. So we're just learning this. We're figuring it out as we go. I'm going to stop the video here, and we're going to get into our box breathing and kind of round out the show. So as we finish up, please make sure that you like, even if you don't participate in the box breathing, but we recommend that you participate in the breathing meditation. It is the most important part of the show. And I want to remind us of that video. I think we watched it together. Maybe I just watched it on my own, but it was talking about how if 1% of the people in a particular place decide to meditate, it actually decreases crime in that area pretty significantly. So if just 1%. So these are one of the intentional things that we can do. Like Mama Leia, I always tell you, reminds me of what we focus on grows. So it's important, especially after we have a lot of these conversations, to remind our conscious to program ourselves to make sure that we're focusing on the positive things. And that those things, like, it's like we're understanding, okay, let me understand the game. Let me understand how we're getting manipulated. Let me understand exactly the evil that's out there. Okay, now let me focus on the things that I need to do in order to rid myself of that evil. So, box breathing. Let me bring it up. I should have it already on here. Give me a second. But what are y'all thoughts on all this? And Uluwe, he said, box breathing saves me. Trust me, it does the same for me. It really does the same for me. And I need to be doing it more. It's probably, well, it's not probably, it's something that I should be doing throughout the day. But especially, when I wake up and then when I'm going to sleep, that's definitely something that should be done. So let's take a look at, where's this? Let me find the box breathing. And if I can find that, then eventually.
When that thing happened with the Clippers,
why am I not? Hold on one second. All right, let me go to my text. Because thankfully, we got big bro Steve who sent it to me, so I can always just go to the text and see it there. So let me pull that up for you all. It should be on the screen now. Let me do a little 1, 2. And of course, so the goal of the breathing, on the inhales, be super intentional. Be very intentional with inhaling all that positive energy. And on the exhales, let's be very intentional with releasing all of that negative energy that we have built up in us. So you can either watch the yellow dot, or you can close your eyes. We start on a inhale, so you can just close your eyes and just follow the noise. That's what I recommend, but obviously only if you're in a safe place. So we're going to start off with an inhale in which we are intentionally focusing on all the positive things, the limitless things, the empowering things, us feeling good about ourselves, us feeling confident. So let's start our inhale now, and we're going to go through 4 cycles. Ready? Breathe in. getting ready to go through our last cycle. Be very intentional. Keep releasing the negative. Be very intentional with this next inhale. Inhaling positive energy. Hold it, hold it. And then we're going to release the remaining bit of that negative energy, anything limiting us, holding us back, distracting us. Release it. Y'all know what we come here to do. Y'all know what we come here to do. Elevate on purpose, both from an intentional standpoint, all right? Raising our standards to become the best leaders, the best followers, the best role players. The best role players. We got to start celebrating the role players because everybody is playing a role. Everybody's playing a role. So let's make sure that we are just doing our best to fulfill that role as best we can for the greater good of everybody as we focus on getting closer to this goal of achieving this greater peace, right? Living in peace and harmony amongst everyone. That I believe should be the goal. So we need to raise our standards in various areas, raise our consciousness, raise our level of consciousness, raise our frequency. Those may be some of the most important things, all right? When we are conscious beings and just elevating on a higher frequency, I think we are just better to each other. And when we're better to each other, I think that's the goal of all this. That's the goal of all this. It's going to allow us to get closer to that North Star of greater peace. So strength and honor, onward and upward. Figure out what you need to do to make the impact that you want to make on this world that we like to call our personal legend. You know, we're living in our purpose, striving for purposeful abundance. Let's be very clear with what we're walking towards. You know, we don't know the challenges that are going to come up along the way. And when those challenges do come up, as we know they will, embrace them. Those are opportunities to improve in areas in which if those challenges didn't present themselves, we wouldn't be focusing on improving them. So we'd be less than. So that's just an opportunity for us to grow and for us to maximize our potential. We can't maximize our potential without embracing challenges, without embracing problems. All right. So figure out what's in your bag. You know, when I say what's in your bag, y'all know what I mean. What are the things that you're focusing on? What's going to serve as your North Star? So things that I like to focus on: peace, love, happiness, health, wealth, and in everything we do, integrity. And of course, got to add that balance. That's the tricky part in a lot of this, figuring out what's the right balance. And of course, got to have perspective. So love is the way, be the change, own it, live it. It starts with me. I love that, Steve. I love that from my big bro. All right. So, and then we got from Finn, peace, discipline, focus. That's how you raise your frequency. Peace, discipline, focus. That's how you raise your frequency. Definitely appreciate that, big bro. Uluwehi, much respect. And when I say what we're building here, and when I say what we're building here, obviously the goal is to grow, bring on more like-minded people. And when I say bring on more like-minded people, I mean just people that are open-minded, not people that just agree with us, you know, just open-minded people. And I should say maybe like-guided or like-principled, just based on, hey, we agree on just being decent and wanting to live by this rule of treating others the way we want to be treated and just make the world a better place. So maybe principle-liked rather than like-minded is the best way to describe that. But the goal obviously is to bring those people, but I'm just so thankful just for what we have right now. You know, a lot of times we so busy focusing on, well, I want this, I want that, and not appreciating what we have now. So I want to make sure that I do that. So love y'all, man. Appreciate y'all. Let's just continue to grow. Let's continue to build. Samira, appreciate the hearts. We'll see y'all tomorrow, 8 a.m. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. And y'all have an amazing day. I got to figure out a nice outro video too. So I'll figure that out. But I'm liking the development.